Hello friends, thank you for joining me again today. My name is Dan. My name is 90 degrees Fahrenheit Dan. I wore a shirt that shows perspiration. That's just to prove to you that. Anyway, this is Daily Art Adventure number 647. Woohoo! Unless you want to hear the blue whale say it. Whoa! Late stage oil glaze. What does that mean? That means I'm near the end of the painting, nearly finished, but I have one more entire layer to go. And again, I'm sort of in virgin territory with this, experimenting with a new painting practice. That's the right way to put it. In which I am trying very hard to retain the initial abstract. But of course, at this point, it's not so much a matter of retaining the original abstract as it is reinforcing it, redoing it, and so on. So let me tell you a little bit about what's in my mind. I'm using three tools, by the way, to make the marks you see me making. My infamous black pencils, oil painting sticks. These are made for doing what I'm doing, and these are water-soluble pastels made by Charvan, my friends. The Charvans over in where is it? Marseille, France. Yeah. Perhaps another way to understand this slightly new approach for me, new approach to painting, is I'm a lot more serious about abstraction, looseness. At the same time, however, that I'm very focused, as you can see by all the mess that's on this painting, at the same time that I'm very focused on a lot of abstract stuff, I'm also very focused on very accurate rendering. Let me zoom in here for just a minute. For instance, just in all these buildings are rendered even more carefully than my normal. Likewise, the cars down here in the lower right-hand corner are rendered quite carefully, etc. You get the idea. So I'm trying to add more, and I'm trying to push more mess, abstraction. What I've learned from Paul Talks, that Toby turned me onto earlier this week, is what the old people used to call the decorative element. Now, in my lifetime, to be called a decorative painter is an insult. So there you go. Just in case you ever want to know, I don't mean I'm going to take offense, but if you want to insult me, call what I do decorative. And I've been called that many times by people who, yes, in fact, did understand what they were doing. Never mind. I won't go. They knew what they were doing, and they did it on purpose. The interdict. Look it up. The interdict against representational painting, and especially beautiful painting, which I'm hoping you discern quite readily that my objective is beauty. That is a naughty word in the academy. And the word that they'll slap on a painter like me in order to be offensive is the word decorative. But anyway, turns out in the olden days, the word decorative meant what I now call abstract. All right, so you've seen me doing, let me see if there's anything else I want to do here. Yeah, there is. You've seen me doing a bunch of, I want to green. And again, I'm using 2 tools at the moment. Water-soluble pastels. Now you understand, so this turns, when I rub it, it essentially turns into powder, pigment powder on the surface of the canvas. When I rub that with liquid, a lot of it will come off, but some of it will stay. And whatever stays gets, in essence, turned into oil paint. Does that make sense? So nobody has ever told me that you can do what I'm doing here. I just am using my educated common sense and say, yeah, that'll work. The liquid is the magic that makes it work. All right, so I'm after, one could say, layers and layers and layers of reality, to be a little bit dramatic about it. And somebody, either in person or on my chats, I can't remember. I think it was somebody in person last night, said, because they saw I was working to maintain or keep the initial abstract painting. For you newcomers, I start all my paintings with a complete abstract painting underneath, and then start doing this painting on top of it. And the recent adventure for me is trying to maintain that. Now, what you just saw me do is not maintaining, but adding to. All right, somebody asked me either on chat comment yesterday or in person, well, couldn't you just do a painting and then do abstract on top of it? And my impression at the moment is no, that would not be the same. Here's one thing I know about human beings. We are amazing creatures. Well, that is true, but no, we're amazing in that our eyes, our brain, the seeing part of our eyes, can detect with amazing proficiency what layer of paint is on top of what. We can tell when a mark was made after an earlier mark. And I know that sounds kind of strange and like, yeah, so big deal. Okay, so I'm amazed at how accurate we are at seeing that. No, you don't have to be trained. You get close to a painting and go, huh, that's on top of that. And as you know, in my painting style for years, I've played excessively with that, toyed with that. What's on top of what? What's on top of what? I'm not going to talk about that anymore right now. I just saw another mark that needs to be made. So that, answering the question, couldn't you just do a painting and then do abstract on top? Nope, because it would look fakey, phony. It would look completely, in my opinion, it would look completely arbitrary, cutesy. Like, oh, isn't that cute? Whereas when your eye discerns that the abstract is actually underneath the picture, it throws you for a little, it throws you a curveball. Like, wow, now that's interesting. Okay, now clearly what has happened in the last 5 minutes is I've got abstract underneath and abstract on top, but that's about to change. That's, all my talking here is preparatory to what I'm about to do, which of course is another glaze over the entire canvas, and then which darkens, right? Glaze is transparent, so any color glaze means that part of the painting is darker. Then after, and anytime you put dark on the canvas, you're not done. You dark first, lights last. Anytime you put dark on the canvas, That's just the wind up to the follow through, which is light. Our eyes like to see, again, this business of what's on top of what. Our eyes like to see light paint on top of dark. Our eyes do not like to see dark paint on top of light. Trust me. Or don't. Be a mediocre painter and don't believe me. Ooh, that was mean. Who's on board already? Rick, Charlotte. Hi, Rick. I am a worker. Thank you. All right, so I'm about to put a transparent glaze over the entire canvas, whatever colors I want, different colors everywhere. After doing the glaze, then of course I come back and do more light stuff on top of the glaze. And at that point, I'll probably be finished with the painting. Now here's what my mind is thinking. Now this is kind of an experiment. So is it all the marks that I just put on and that you saw me do a bunch of in the last few minutes, all those marks, right now they're on top. But after 2 more layers, which will be glaze, which by the way will soften many of them, like especially the pastel ones. Like if I rub it a bunch, it'll completely disappear, but if I'm real gentle, it'll stay there. So all the marks then will be under glaze, and then I do light on top of the glaze, and all of a sudden those marks that right now are on top will be tucked in 2 layers back, 2 layers down, 2 layers deep. Does that make sense? Now, I'm not going to like repaint the entire sky. No, no, no. It'll just take a few marks here and there and here and there and here and there, I think, to achieve this effect. And then I'll be back at what I'm after, which is multi-layer, rich, complex interplay of carefully rendered representational painting and abstract painting, playing with each other. Almost like I've thought about a moire pattern. Do you know what a moire? Take a screen, like a window screen, and put it on top of another window screen and go like this, and you get these big shifting patterns. That's a moire pattern. I just thought about that. That's kind of a good word for what I'm trying to achieve here, is a magical, mysterious, fun moire pattern between the picture, mispronounced on purpose, the picture and the abstract. All right, let's get started. Enough talking. Is this guy ever going to stop talking and start painting? Yep, right now, right now. Again, so the medium I'm using is liquid. Hang on just a minute though. Hang on. It just dawned on me. I better not use pure liquid over this whole thing. Whoops, there goes my light. Because there might be some part of the painting that was slow dry-ish, slowish drying, and so I can't put fast dry liquid on top of slow dry, or I will get cracks. Pardon me just a minute. So right now I'm mixing up liquid, which is a fast dry medium, with Neo McGilp, the worst named oil painting product in history. Neo McGilp. Neo means, of course, new. So that evidently there used to be such a thing as old McGilp, and now there's new McGilp. Strange words. Completely does not roll off the tongue. Let me see what's wrong with my light here. Is it just a connection? Okay. Forgive me. I have a good new battery in the house. I need to run and get it. I'll be gone for just 10 seconds. Count. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. I seem to be having some strange problems with some of my batteries here. But this one is a super high power. Okay, there we go. Sorry, we're back in business. All right, so now I have medium drying on my brushes. Glad I thought of that. Probably would have been okay probably would not have been a disaster, but better to be safe, of course, than sorry. I need a step stool to get to the top of this 6-foot painting. Now, what I'm saying to myself is, what colors, what do I want to shift? Which direction do I want to shift all the different parts of my painting? And I think I'm classical, traditional, boring. I think I want to vignette that corner a little bit. So I want that to go darker, purple. More purple would be good. But do I really want it bluer? I'm not sure that I do. I'm thinking, I'm literally scratching my chin. Yeah, no, I don't. Here's what my brain is saying. I want it darker up there, but if I make it pure, like if I use pure phthalo or pure ultramarine, even with some purple in it, those are clean, high chroma colors. That will, in a sense, increase the energy up there. More color, increased energy. And I don't think I want that. I don't want more attention up there. So I am going to dirty it up a little bit. So let's get started. So I'm going to do dipping my brushes in ultramarine, a little bit of dioxazine violet, and believe it or not, a little bit of raw umber. As you might know, my go-to color for killing color. It's my color killer color. Now that's darker. That's, of course, darker than I want, but I'm going to spread it out and see how it looks. Now the fun part about, the really fun part about glazing like this is it is so safe, because the painting is dry. Do you understand that? It's an oil painting. I worked on it yesterday morning, but I was using all, liquid and fast dry alkyd, titanium alkyd. Anywhere I used white, so it's all dry. Which, if you're an oil painter, you might be surprised. Like, wow, really? Just painted it yesterday and it's all dry. Yep. That's the way I oil paint. I don't have time to wait for days for my paintings to dry. That's just the way it is. So the reason this glazing is so much fun and so safe is because if I do something I don't like, no problem. I pick up a rag and I'll wipe it off. If that doesn't get it completely, I dip my rag in liquid and then wipe it off. And then go wash my hands after, because then I've got my hands, not liquid. Oh, that will work too, but I meant what I meant was dip my rag in turpenoid or Gamsol, and then go wash your hands. That would not be a bad time. Would not be a bad idea to be wearing rubber gloves at that time, but that's not part of my repertoire, so I just don't. I just rather go wash my hands. A little different when you're out on the street painting. I'm a little bit more careful. Okay, so let me step back and just look at that. I darkened both of those corners, and yep, that was a good decision. So you understand, again, the traditional vignette on a painting or photograph, it's not by any means a hard and fast rule. You should not always vignette. But yeah, most of the time, a painting is benefited by darkening the corners. Do not treat that like a rule. Just treat it like a, think about it. Sometimes, often it helps. And I'd say about 80% of the time, composition is aided, helped, strengthened by doing that simple little trick. And I've just showed you, by the way, by far the easiest way to do that. Look, I mean, you have to keep, this is a 6 by 6 foot painting, right? So I've just covered up, you know, an area the size of what most of you would consider to be a large painting, you know, 2 by 3, 3 by 4 feet or something I've already covered up. And it just took me just a few minutes, so that's fast. All right, now I've darkened the sky all across the top, and yes, the painting looks better already. Now, here's a free tip. When you're painting street scenes, cityscapes, at least here in America, most of our streets are paved with asphalt, and asphalt, especially as it ages, is just about a perfect neutral gray, right? So, and gray is not a wonderful color necessarily upon which to build your painting, right? So anyway, so I use the term often clamshell. Kind of a strange way to describe it, but very often, not always, is not a hard and fast rule, but very often your asphalt, the pavement on the street, should reflect the color of the sky, because that's essentially what it does. Not as much as water, of course, but to a significant degree. So since I've got this dark, dirty blue, dirty purplish blue color on my brushes already, it's just convenient to come down here and do the pavement. And I'll stand back in a moment and look at this and say, is that too dark? And what about these corners? I'm going to stand back right now, about 10 feet. No, I think that's working. I think that's working fine. I've got a little accidental thing happening, a happy accident that you see over here. If I paint the backs of these cars dark, glaze the back, but leave the sides light here and here, and let me do the same thing even right here. Just lighten this just a little bit. Then I've increased the dimensionality of these vehicles. They're still quite subtle. I haven't infused them with a great deal of additional energy. But I get a little bit more visual punch by that trick. The sides are light, the back is dark. So that's just kind of, and so I'm going to do the same thing over here on this side. Make the fronts of the cars dark, but leave the sides light. I think that's nice. There was a point at which I thought I might have the bottom of this painting and the corners fade to light instead of to dark. And I could still do that, but let me back up and, no, this is working. This is working better. Where I've got the corners going mid-tone, not real dark. But in the foreground here, I've darkened quite a bit, but it was with, of course, pure transparent color. So I haven't obliterated like these abstract marks. I've just pushed them back slightly. as I'm looking, is there anything else in the painting that I want to darken in a cool direction? And I think there is. I think the side of this big building here, some more ultramarine. I've just about wiped out my pile of ultramarine here. A little bit of dioxazine violet. And I have wiped out my pile of raw umber. Some of you have maybe heard me talk about this. Is funny. It amuses me. I'm using a cheapo student brand, in this case Soho from Jerry's, student brand raw umber. Student brand paints almost always means there's not as much pigment. They're weaker. They're cheap. And that's why good painters typically don't want to use student brand paints. But I find that for my purposes, because I'm using the the raw umber, because I'm using the raw umber to kill color. Without using black, it would be just too powerful, too much of a good thing, bad thing. So I find the raw umber works well, and the student grade works well because it's weak. So I don't have to be quite as careful, precise, and exacting when I stick my brush in it. Does that make sense? A funny, I don't know what the word is, counterintuitive or something. I get a kick out of the fact that one of my favorite colors is cheapo student grade paint. Now, and you can use any student grade you want, any student grade color you want. You do have to watch out for light fastness. Let me stand back now. I just darkened the side of that building. That really changed impacted the composition, if you will, significantly. And now because of that, I think I like it. Let me go back and look at it again. Yeah. But I think I can now darken this building up here a little bit, or in other words, vignette, darken this corner a little bit more. And likewise, I'll pick up some blue on these dirty without cleaning my brushes. And likewise, darken this sky up here. You always paint with your eyes. You don't paint by formula or rule. You always paint with your eyes. And your eyes tell you what to do. So after I darkened this big building, then I discovered, oh, this and this can also get darker. Now let me step back and see if I like that. Yeah, I do. I'm probably done with these brushes. Get some smaller, slightly smaller ones. These will do. I'm going to do a little bit with the sky here. Get some more ultramarine on my palette. And anybody, if you're trying to follow my technique, understand, won't you? I am not using any white. Oh my goodness. No. Here's what my students do. When I'm walked away and the mice will play, they'll say, but I got it too dark, so I added some white. That's conventional thinking, but in my world, it's as wrong can be. No, because white makes it opaque. And in my world, opaque is like, what's a poison? What's a good drug? Anyway, it's like nitroglycerin. A little bit is good for you, too much will kill you. So in my world, opacity is the enemy, so to speak. That's putting it a little overly dramatic, but in my world of painting, you use opaque color very intentionally, sparingly, and intelligently. You don't just go, well, it's too dark, so I had light. No, 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 no. In this case, if it's too dark, you pick up a rag and wipe it off. Anyway, just want to make that clear, because that's happened many times when I'm teaching, because people slip into their, you know, for many people, some part of their painting needs to be, well, actually, here's what, for many artists, if they want a part of their painting to be darker, listen to this, they want some part of their painting to be darker, but they want it to be just a tiny bit darker, so they add white to their darkness, so it's just a tiny bit darker. I hope, without me even, I hope you go, I hope, what? That's crazy. That would be the right response. In other words, and I usually say it, mud is the product of getting darker with white paint, okay? Well, why would anybody get darker using white paint? Well, because here's the way the student thinks, and frankly, the way the conventional 20th century painter thinks, because they lost their grounding in the revolutions, some of which were good, but some of which were not good in the 20th century. So they've lost the magic of transparency. So they want to get darker, but only slightly darker, so they add white. And the result is, some people might call it chalkiness, but that is what I call mud. And if you're wondering if you want to hear more, why on earth would you want to hear more? Go to my, you're already on my channel, do a search for mud, Dan Nelson mud. And I have about an 11-minute video where I demonstrate this and describe it quite clearly. It's my definition of mud. I don't care about any of the other definitions, because all the other definitions are simple, 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 simple. The only kind of mud that I, so to speak, worry about is the mysterious kind, where you can't figure, you scratch your head and you can't figure out what's wrong. Why does this part of your painting look muddy? That's the kind I care about. Everything else is simple. I've given that lecture, tirade, speech many times. That's enough for now. All right, I think now I'm done with bluish stuff, bluish glazes. I am going to clean these brushes after all. So forgive me while I quickly try to clean these big 4-inch brushes. Okay, since I'm wasting your time cleaning brushes, I have discovered in my journeys on YouTube that other people, other teachers, other painters have other definitions for mud. I had one guy, you could see his comment if I didn't remove it, because I don't think I removed it. But I will tell you that I looked at his artwork. That's all I'm going to say about that. But he didn't hesitate one moment to disembowel me. He was a very clever person, had good command of language, so he took advantage of his command of language to noise abroad how incomprehensibly stupid I was, and then proceeded to tell me what his definition of mud, because no doubt it's some teacher that he respected. Anyway, his definition was that when you're painting alla prima in oil, and you pile up layer upon layer upon layer, and you mix those layers with your brushes so that the colors become muddy, nondescript, and so on. He said, that's what mud is. Okay, that's a reasonable explanation of how people could use that word for mud. I just want to be clear, that is not what I'm talking about, okay? But that is what evidently some people call mud. The reason I don't worry about that is because it's so simple. Just like Bob Newhart, that sketch he did where he was a psychologist, and his counseling and basically entailed stop. He just had people come in and pour out their life griefs before them, and he would just deadpan look at them and say, "Stop it." So that's what I say about that other definition of mud. Just don't do it. That's dumb. Just don't do it. All right. Boy, I've made all kinds of friends this morning. It's for your own good. All right. Now, let me zoom out a little bit. Hey, Francisco Martin. New name. Thanks for joining me, man. Greetings from Mexico, Francisco. Good to have you on board. By the way, somebody left a chat yesterday. I think it was yesterday, yeah, on one of my videos in Portuguese. I want you to know I used Google Translator. Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments, my Portuguese friend. All right, so now I've got clean brushes, slightly smaller, and I'm going to do some kind of warm glazes. So a little bit of oxide red, a little bit of Indian yellow. Let's see what that looks like. Oxide red is like it's not red, it's oxide. It's like the color of rust. It's a beautiful, beautiful transparent color. So right now I'm just going to warm up the whole face of this building. Let it spill out into the sky a little bit, of course. Don't color in the lines. I'm going to leave it just like that for now. And I might come back and wipe some of it off later. This building I didn't clean my brushes, but just a little bit more Indian yellow, a little bit less of the oxide red. I think same thing for this building, I believe. Let's push it a little bit yellower. And going into the sky down here. So I've got a dirty Indian yellow on my brushes. Dirty in the sense that I didn't clean my brushes after I did some of that brown. So it's not a pure, and I will lift off some of that with a rag. I'm quite liking the way that's looking, those buildings. So same thing. Still slightly dirty brushes and just pure Indian yellow on them. And I wish so badly that I could teleport all of you through the internet so you could stand here beside me and see these paintings in person. As you well know, I don't need to tell you this, but as you well know, they look so much better. You know, I've got a monitor over here, and I know basically what you guys are seeing. So much more dynamic, so much more colorful in person than on your monitor. Sorry about that. So you just have to use your imagination and trust me. I usually say at some point, at some point in this glazing process, I say, ain't a color made that don't look better with something else on top of it. In other words, ain't a color made that don't look better with a transparent glaze on top of it. In other words, transparent colors are far more interesting than opaque colors. And then I usually say, which I will right now, that is not a matter of opinion. Like, well, that's your opinion. No, no, we're not talking about opinion. We're talking about physics, if you will, science. A transparent color, oh boy, it's BTR BTRB times 2 squared. BTRB twice. Whereas a opaque color is a B. Opaque color is one bounce. The light hits the surface of the paint and bounces, and you're done. It then comes to your retina. A transparent color bounces, transits, radiates, bounces, radiates, and exits. A transparent color has 7 physical things happen to a transparent color before it hits your retina. 7 things versus 1 thing. So, and then now I need to say, okay, does that mean that your entire painting should all be transparent colors? Like mine is right now, except for what I just wiped off. The answer is no, because the principle of variety trumps, or if you will, the benefit, the advantage of transparency is greater than the advantage, the advantage of variety is greater than the advantage of transparency. So transparency is beautiful, it's an advantage. But there's another principle, and that is variety, that is even more important. There you go. Does that make sense? Good. Well, we got through that again. There are a lot of people in the world today who don't understand the beauty and magic of transparent painting, because, and again, there's a whole historical reason for that. The canvas is flat, and so on and so on and so forth. Sure. So, who am I, little old nobody Dan Nelson, who am I to preach so vociferously the benefits, the advantages of transparent color, if there are artists out there who are better than I am who don't do it at all? And I do have an answer for that question. You won't like it. If you think I'm arrogant so far, you'll like this next part even less. I'll use an example. It's Kevin, and I love this guy. I think you know that if you hear me very much. Kevin McPherson is a fabulous painter. He's better than I am. That's not the question. The question would be, would Kevin McPherson be better than he is if he painted in the magic of transparency? And with great fear and trepidation, I tell you the answer is yes. Kevin McPherson would be better. And why doesn't he do it? Well, because virtually nobody in our generation, that's an exaggeration, but I'll leave it at that. Virtually nobody in our generation, much less 10 years older than me, understands the magic that all the old masters knew. Now, and again, just because I sound indescribably arrogant to some of you right now, how can I deign to criticize somebody the stature of, say, Kevin McPherson, who I like very much? I hope I make that clear. I like him as a person, and I like him as an artist. And there's things I would absolutely give my eye teeth to learn that he knows, and I don't know. This is obvious because he's a better painter than I am. How can I have such gall? The answer is not because I paint with the magic of transparency, but say, for instance, Rembrandt did, Boucher did, what's his name with all the fat babies did. In other words, the great masters throughout history virtually all understood this. So it's not me against, say, Kevin McPherson. No. It's Rembrandt and me. Now, which I wouldn't be, no, I am not even at all comparing myself to Rembrandt. Or I like to say it this way. People often use my name and Rembrandt's in the same sentence. You heard this joke? That sentence is, "He sure ain't no Rembrandt." There you go. Anyway, so that's there. I've given you the long version of, and again, I'll do it some other time. I've done it before. I'll do it again sometime. So how and why did we, as a culture, lose the magic of transparency? There's a historical, all the isms of the 20th century, marched us through this process, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Clement Greenberg, look him up. He wasn't an artist, he was an art critic. All right, how am I coming? Good. I'm happy to say the painting looks better just from what I've done already. And I'm discovering that my pastel lines disappear very quickly. Many of them have disappeared essentially. So if I want those to stay, I need to make them bolder. And the oil stick lines, they remain unless I rub them hard, which I do sometimes in order to diminish their effect. So I'm learning this new trick and enjoying it very much, honestly. That can be darker. That can actually be darker and cooler. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is, and I think I'll end this broadcast at the end of the glazing process, and that's the title I've given it, and then I'll start another broadcast, a separate one, in a little while, where I do what is hopefully the final layer. Could be called the second final edit, using my, if you will, historical terminology, this terminology I've been using for several years. I call it the final edit layer, even though it's no longer the final layer anymore. I've got oxide red and phthalo blue on my brushes right now, which is a lovely combination for darkening. See, I've made all this darker. That's better. Make this darker as well. Let me step back and look at this now from a distance. Oh yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, it's nice to see a painting getting better with such little effort, such little work. I hope, if nothing else, I hope some of you will just get turned on to the magic of transparent glazes. I feel like that is as I attend my painters group and so forth. If anybody from there ever listens, I keep my mouth shut most of the time, but I will tell you that about probably 80% of the paintings that go up in front of us would be benefited with just doing what I'm doing right here. Just doing transparent glaze. And again, we did not learn. We were not taught. Just as I said earlier, there was an interdiction against representational or beautiful painting. A corollary related to that is there was an interdict against transparent glazes. It's a long story again, But thank God we're recovering from that dark night of our cultural soul. Well, I don't know if we are or not. Well, let's just pretend we are. I'm going to let it go at that. It makes me happy to think we are. Don't bother me, I'm happy. I can step back again. In other words, I have strengthened the light of this canvas, of this entire canvas, by darkening the dark. The composition of this painting, I'm amazed even as I look at it. The composition of this painting just got 40%. That's huge. This late in the game, just got 40% better. That I'm trying to estimate, significantly better. And it's a 6x6 painting. And how many minutes have I been doing this? Not that many, right? So, doggone it, that is big bang for your buck. Not quite finished, but almost. A little bit of darkness right there. I'm going to keep using this nice combination of oxide red and phthalo blue. More blue, it's a cooler gray. More brown, it's a warmer gray. But it doesn't, our eye does not read it as gray at all. Okay, that's the beauty of transparency. Our eyes combine, see these layers and layers and layers, and perceive them as layers, not as flat colors. See, now that energy, we have little bits of energy up there and up here, but it's coalescing. Yeah, this is dynamic right here. I love this passage in my painting, and it's one of the more abstract areas. It's accurate. It's accurate to the buildings. Any local in Raleigh knows exactly what building this is. It's accurate, but it's rendered with great energy, and it's a nice contrast to the stuff just above it that is rendered more accurately, more carefully. Anyway, I'm happy. If you can tell, this is Dan Nelson being happy. Woohoo! And I have a whole bunch of fun left to do on this painting. As soon as I finish the glazing, the fun, I guess I have a little bit of rendering, tiny bit of rendering to do in these cars down here, a tiny bit here, and maybe a tiny bit here, but not much rendering. Everything that I'm going to do here on out on this painting will be abstract. Will be concerned with the abstraction and the layers of abstraction, which is fun. I don't have to worry really a bit about drawing, ratios, perspective, and that's all done. That's all done. And the composition is dynamite. Let me give the composition a name. It's essentially, can you see the whole canvas? Not quite. Let me pull you down and see. So, one of the ways to think about composition, one of the simpler ways in my full-orbed composition lecture class, I give four ways to think about composition, from simple, quite simple, more complex, very complex. This is number 2, so it's very simple. You regulars, you've heard me say it many times, but for any newcomers, it bears repeating. You should be able to look at your finished painting and identify either, now that word either is very important, either the major dark areas or the major light areas, essentially with one word. Okay? It's certainly not the dark areas here, because most of the painting is dark. I'm lifting off a little bit right here, by the way. Where is the light? There's some significant light here, and it comes down here. So it's maybe, if we consider this straight across with a dip, and then it's sort of a capital J. It goes like this. Do you see that? Except that it doesn't really curve here. It goes, so it's a J with a dent in it. That's more than one word. And then these are outliers. Let me give you the next most complex, which I call Mikey's rule, because I got it from my good buddy Mike Rooney. We paint together for a week every year, have done so for the last 6 years in October, typically in Ocracoke, North Carolina, beautiful, beautiful rustic seacoast island, small island on the edge of the Atlantic there. And he got this from somebody else, but I forget who he got it from, so I call it Mikey's rule. A little more complex. I have to describe it since I've got this far in. You divide your painting into 3 values: light, medium, and dark. Check. You registered? Is that sunk in? Light, medium, dark areas. 2 of those 3, either the dark and the medium, or the medium and the light, or the dark and the light. 2 of those 3 zones should be contiguous, touching, connected. Like, here's one bunch of dark stuff on my painting. Here's another bunch of dark stuff on my painting. Those are not contiguous. Now they are contiguous. They're touching. Even if it's a fairly small, it can't be a line, but even if it's an isthmus, you know, a fairly narrow band of land between 2 bodies of water is an isthmus. If they're connected, then that counts. All right, so let's evaluate this painting according to Mikey's rule. Dark is all across the top is dark, and this is dark, and this is dark, and the bottom is dark. Is it contiguous? Almost. If I consider this dark, see, it's bordering on mid-tone, but if I call that dark, then yeah. And there's an isthmus right here. Yeah, no, this little bit of light doesn't violate. So I'm saying that the darks are quite contiguous, connected, touching. Let's go to the other extreme, the lights. I have light here, here. They're not connected unless, you know, that's a mid-tone. Light, 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 light. And this is usually what happens in my paintings. My lights are not contiguous. They're scattered, higgledy-piggledy, freckledy face. That's most typical. I have light down here. So my hope is, if it's a good composition according to Mikey's rule, then my midtones had better be connected. And I believe they are, because basically everything in the middle is midtone, just with holes. So midtone, midtone, connected, yeah, connected, connected, yeah, connected. So and I'm not being, you might say, no, you called that a light area. Anyway, this is midtone, right? And it goes around these light bits. This is midtone, goes around. So I think, according to Mikey's rule, and of course, you understand this is like an arbitrary rule. It's just one way to think about the world. But I think, according to Mikey's rule, this painting is hanging together. Now, be that as it may, you don't paint by rules. The rules just help you paint better. Be that as it may, when I stand back 10 feet and look at this painting, I go, bang! That is working. Now, that might mean, you know, you might say, like, okay, would this painting be better? I'm asking myself sincerely, if anybody wants to weigh in, if I pushed this back, if I just, you know, is this an unnecessary distraction? If I push that back, I don't think I want to push these back. Honestly, I don't. I do wonder about that. Not this. I think this is important, and that's contiguous. That's all contained. This stands out by itself. Let me go back and look at that again. Well, you know what? I'm thinking there's a good chance that it might get better. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to paint it. I'm going to glaze it. And if I don't like it, I can change my mind. So I'm mixing up.
Let me know when you're finished.
Okay. I've got oxide red, raw umber, ultramarine. By the way, do not take notes. Don't go for your notebook and start writing this stuff down. No. That is the wrong way to paint. I'm just telling you for interest's sake, but this is not the magic formula. All right. Let's see what happens here. Now you understand this is pretty safe because what? Everything I'm putting on right now, if I don't like it, I just take a rag and wipe it off. Right? You got that. I don't need to keep telling you that, I'm sure. You got that. Clear as can be. I don't know if it's working or not. I will know in a minute when I step back and look from a distance. And again, some of you guys need to, what you're watching right now is an artist, at the risk of sounding too self-focused, is an artist trying to do art, not an artist trying to copy a photograph. You understand? Can you say, well, what's the picture do? In the picture, this is very light up here. I could give a hooey fluey gabalooey about what the picture says. That is not the point. That is not the objective. Let me stand back. Nope. I'm not sure why. I think what is happening, my favorite word is energy. And now this whole area is too low energy. Just not quite enough stuff happening. It's a dead zone. So I think I'm going to take it off. Now, witness, please watch. I am not erasing. This is very important. I am painting with a rag. I'm making a swipe, a mark, and then looking and thinking and painting with my eyes. Does that make sense? Let me tell you what erasing is. And many of you are way too guilty of this. You sound kind of mean, but it's because I'm trying to make you a good painter. Erasing is when you're upset and you're mad at yourself because you made a quote-unquote mistake and your entire spirit, soul is in a dark place and you're going, I'm such an idiot, I'm such a bad painter, I'm so mad, I just never got mocked anything. Or something like that. And don't you look at me that way. I know that's how you talk to yourself. I hang out with student painters enough, in classes or in painters groups, or whatever. I know, and you're a human being and I share your humanity. I am tempted sometimes to do the same thing. You understand? But I have pretty much learned that is not a healthy response to anything in life. And certainly not a healthy way to paint. So I am not mad at myself. I'm not kicking myself. I'm not irritated. I'm just painting. So I can't explain, like according to Mikey's rule, why this light area is off here all by itself. Well, it's because my lights are higgledy-piggledy. But there you go. I tried it, looked at it, painted with my eyes. And my eyes decided, nope, it created too much of a large, empty zone. And now and see how easy that was, right? In fact, you could argue that this part of the painting is actually more interesting now. Why? Because it's got more of my energy, soul, intelligence, thinking process on it. Because to put it on and take it off is not the same as to not put it on. Did you catch that? To put paint on and then wipe it off does not equal don't put paint on. No, because clearly some of what I put on here a few minutes ago is still here. And again, I'm painting with a rag, so I'm thinking, I'm looking, As I wipe it off, I'm not just angrily erasing. All right. So that's a good place. That's a good place, I think, for me to end this broadcast. That was a good primer, whichever you prefer, on the art of doing a late stage design. Whoops, did I lose you for a minute there? Boy, oh boy, oh boy. There are a lot of sweet, accidental, magical things happening. I love the way the sun is just catching the edge of that van and these cars right here. And the way it's catching the glint, the glare, the reflection in these whoops. The reflection in these, and those things that I just pointed out are 80% happy accident. All right, so when I come back, I'll be doing translucent and opaque edits. I'll show you one edit before I go, just in case you can't see it. Hey, Uncle 60. Thank you, my friend. You're too generous. I appreciate that. Uncle 60 has given me a super chat, $5 for ham on rye, ham and cheese. Thank you. And I love those. Those are great. Let me zoom in here real quick to, do you see this pencil line right here? Yes, I think you can see that. I am almost certainly going to try to mix up whatever color this is and whatever color that is, and paint up to that line on both sides, and then paint across it here and there, which will then change that line from being perhaps an accident or a later addition to being submerged. It will become deep in the painting because I'll have painting on top of it, and it will tell the viewer that the artist, me, did that mark very intentionally. It was not a mistaken accident. You know, like they'll say, wow, Dan Nelson was really proud of that mark. And then they're, in a sense, the way art works psychologically, when they see that I did it on purpose and I'm quite proud of it because I really worked to make it there, they'll go, huh. They will sort of, their inside will relax and go, he did that on purpose. And then in that relaxed state, hopefully they'll just go, I don't know what that is, but dang, I like that. Does that make sense? Music is a very close parallel to that. When a good singer gets up and sings, we relax, and then everything they do is like, oh, they did that on purpose. Even a bad singer like Bob Dylan, who's, you know, a horrible singer, but it's obvious that everything he did on purpose, intentionally. So then you relax, go, huh, he means to sound like that. That's weird. But okay, then you accept it as it is. He's a crazy example. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. I'll probably be back within an hour, I think, to start this last stage. I'm really excited about it. Thanks for watching. Oh, let me look at your chats before I go. I'm sorry. Hang on. I saw. See, that's what happens when you do super chat. I see those for sure. Thank you. Thank you, Horatio. Yes, Uncle 60 again. Yes, my clients did indeed like my marina. They were thrilled with it. I brought it home to finish it. I'll look forward to it, and I'll show you guys probably when I do that. Can you explain how you put liquid on the night before, like you said, for the marina painting to avoid fumes? Does it not dry out? Oh, it does dry out. Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so I'm painting, on to dry, which I like. Does the oil glazing reactivate it? No. It is dry, and that's what I want to. So I'm painting wet on dry, which of course is easier than wet on wet, but not as soupy. Thank you again for that $5 ham and cheese on rye. Oh, yeah, no such thing as a better painter. A canvas painted all red sold for $2 million. That's not visual painting. That is conceptual. That is, anyway, that's another whole story. They're not on the same train we're on at all. Hey, Jake, who also always comments in all caps. Great painting, fits your description of abstract realism. Thank you, appreciate that. And June Rapace, hi. Hello. I know I butchered your name. I'm so sorry. Thank you for joining us. Are any buildings there housing units or all businesses? Yes, yes. These are condos in this big blue building, and that's all. One of these buildings back here used to be public housing, and it caused all the ruckus. We moved all the poor people out. Now it's going to be fixed up for rich people. Brother Flower, good to have you. New listener, new viewer. Thank you. So large. Yep. That's what I'm doing. And Marlene, your treatment of cars and street service helps me with current painting on small Illinois train depot. Excellent. Glad to hear it, Marlene. Thank you. Uncle Six, you need to tall glass of iced tea before you look into the light. It looks hot in there. I do have two, not one, but two fans. One oscillating and one blowing straight on me, so it makes it bearable. I'm really doing okay, thanks. Is light coming from the front of that tall, large blue building on the left? Is light coming from the front of that tall, large blue building on the left over toward the yellow? Yes, correct. Light is coming this way. And then it's hitting the sides of some of these buildings on this because the light's coming between them. But yeah, you can see the light is certainly hitting the fronts of all of those buildings. So morning light. I talk too much. Quite all right. I enjoy your comments. Hey, Susan, good to have you here again. Did you ever take a photo of that beautiful big painting you did? That's a good question. No, I don't think I have photographed that painting yet. Doggone it. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. I've got low-res photographs of it. Maybe I should post one of those. Yeah, oh, wait. The one you painted on aluminum first. Oh, yeah, the tall one. Yes, yes, yes. Did I not post that? I'll try to do that on community. If I think about it, Susan, I'll do it later on today on the YouTube community. I definitely have good pictures of that. I have good pictures of everything except for my roughly 6 by 8 foot one. The second big painting I did this year. All right, gang. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed being with you. Thank you for helping me to paint. I think you know this, but you helped me, right? I told a good friend of mine, old friend, I was describing my life back about 6 months ago, and I said, if you put me in a room painting, my joy meter is pretty high. But if you put me in a room painting with a camera on me, something's wrong. My joy meter is really high, so thank you very much. And that wouldn't work if nobody was watching, so I appreciate it. You are very welcome, Susan. All right, I'll be back later. Thanks.